HTML and CSS Part 2. CSS refers to Cascading Style Sheets. CSS describes the properties of how HTML elements are to be displayed or rendered by the browser. CSS separate the HTML code from their attributes. Separate the HTML code from their attributes by controlling the layout of multiple web pages all at once and facilitate changes. Kind of we're going to show how that works. External style sheets are stored in CSS files, which are also simple text files. So the CSS is a kind of language. You can say it's an additional markup language to help style the HTML elements. Let's talk about some properties of CSS. We've already observed some of this in the previous lecture, but let's examine more specifically now. So when we're dealing with CSS, we're usually going to be dealing with rule sets. A rule set, which has the selector, which is going to be a tag, and a declaration block. So the selector over here, you see, is just, you can kind of H1. Once again, the color doesn't mean anything here. You just write this out on a piece of text file. So identify H1. So this is going to be the tag. It's going to be modified. Usually space, but maybe you don't even need a space because you're going to open up the brackets. You open up brackets and you close the brackets. And within the brackets is the declaration block for the CSS. And within the brackets, we're going to have property and value, property and value. So property sometimes called attribute, attribute and value pairs. Notice that attribute and value pairs are separated by colon, and each pair is separated by semicolon. I think this is kind of what we're talking about here. Multiple CSS declarations are separated with semicolons, declaration blocks surrounded by curly braces. And then after this one, you can start a new one with another selector for paragraph and so on. We'll see that. So for example, some CSS syntax here of the rule set. So you just write somewhere on the piece of text, P, and we'll show where to write it. P, this refers to the P tag. Open square curly brackets, rather, not square brackets, curly brackets, color equals red, color colon red, or color equals red. It's kind of the same idea. Text align equals center. Now, once again, color doesn't matter. I mean, the red here, the red and the blue and the brown, it doesn't matter. It's just the syntax and the set of words. Once again, where did these come from? Where did this color, is it color? Is it, or, you know, red? How does it know red? Does it know orange? Does it know green? Yes. You have, once again, you got to read the manual. Got to look at the manual, what the common color attributes are, what are the values? What are the values that can be used here? What are the properties available? And so on. And this comes with experience and trying different tests and so on. Note that line breaks have no effect on the CSS processing. They are used to facilitate human reading. Usually we're going to see it like this, with this kind of style. Who's going to P, open brackets, and then the next line, you put the content, and then you close the brackets. So notice how this is different than this here. You can put it all in one line, or you can break it up like this to facilitate reading. That's what often happens. We already began talking about this, inline styling, so we can kind of add the style in the HTML tag itself, but we usually want to avoid that. And so more common is internal styling and external styling, because then we can separate the content from the style itself, and it facilitates our life when we're dealing with HTML. So let's take a look back again on the inline. Let's look here first on the right. So you have, now this is the HTML file, the HTML text document. We got the body. We have already, we'll begin the styling already in the H1, the heading 1 tag. So the inline is that the style itself, the CSS itself is within, it's called inline styling. So it's within the tag. And you can see, and we already went over this, color, colon, blue, semicolon, text align equals center. So just this one piece of element is going to be styled this way. You could have another H1 tag over here, another section H1, and then maybe you have a separate style. Style equals color red. And this would apply only to this tag itself, to this element itself here, to this element, not to all the H1 tags. So this is inline styling. It's very specific to that specific element, the P here, this specific element. Now let's go to internal style. Internal styling already gives us a flexibility to broaden this up a little bit. Now the internal styling is that within the HTML document itself, see, this is the HTML document here, HTML. We open up a style tag, so just write style and make sure we close it down here as well. And within this, we add our CSS. We add our CSS rule sets. And you can see here we identify the body selector, which is the body tag, and the background dash color is going to be linen. So the whole body of this whole element is going to be this color here. And then every time that there is a heading 1, all the heading 1s are going to have color maroon, and margin left is going to have a 40 point for from the margin, left margin. And then when you write the content itself, you just write the content. You don't need to worry about the styling itself. And it's already, but it's in the same document. Now, what usually happens is the most efficient and the best way is to actually have external CSS. And the external CSS is written as in any text editor and must be saved with a .css extension. It's just a text file. It's text file, and all the beauty is in the content itself. Now, CSS is a very simple structure. It's not complex, any kind of complex programming. There's no functions. It's just about properties and values. But it does get a little bit more kind of complex in the simple examples we use here. The external .css file should not contain any HTML tags. So this is not, notice that we did not put the triangle bracket around. We don't make the HTML tag itself. There's no HTML tags. We just have the selector, which is the same as the tag, but just the name itself, just body. So this is going to modify all the body here on the HTML. Over here is the HTML. This is the HTML file. Oops. That makes a reference to my style.css. So here's the mystyle.css file, which the text file looks like. Body is the body rule set. Background, just background color. You can establish many other properties here. There is font, all kinds of things about the body that you can establish. But here we're just establishing the color. And then for the H1 tags, we're going to have color, margin left, font family, font size, and so on in this mystyle.css. Now, so when you create the HTML file, you have this over here. This is where you link. You make a reference to your CSS styling sheet, maybe called my style or style 1 or main page style.css. So link the reference is style sheet. So you just write style sheet so the computer will know it's the style sheet, and then the actual file itself is the name of the file itself. So if you notice, this here should be, this text file should be located in the same location as this text file here. There's its relative location is the same folder. And then, so we just move all the styling to a separate folder here, and then the HTML file itself can just focus on the content. So a little bit about CSS selectors. I'll pause for now and continue that on the next video.